It is time for me, TMV, to give you some VFL tips for Kickoff. Now, if you haven't made your team yet, you've only got a day and a bit as I record this to make your team. So go and make your team. Make sure you're a part of VFL for Kickoff because it will make it more fun. But we're going to talk about Kickoff, of course, and talk about how to best formulate your team and what you should want to do with your team for VFL here. Now, obviously, the main thing I could give you as a tip for VFL in general is, you want to find the players that you think are underpriced and are going to outperform their price. That's the whole point of the game, right? Because there will be some players in here who do better than, they are priced, and your job is to find out who they are. In general, I would say you want at least one, what I would call premier type player, a player that costs, at least like 14 and a half or 15 to make your IGL, because those players cost that much for a reason, right? They're on good teams, or they frag very, very high a lot of the time, get a lot of aces, 4Ks, all of that. So you definitely will want at least one premier player, probably two. The next main tip I can give you is, of course, that not every team and every player will play the same amount of games. So, for instance, everyone will score points on their best 3 games. That's to make sure that it's fair. But obviously, if you can get a team, like let's just take Navi here and do a kind of pick 'em. If you can get a team that plays more games than that, if teams go on lowers runs like this, they're gonna play more games, right? And whilst true, they will only score their best 3 games. If you have more games to play, that's just more chances to get good scores, right? Like, let's say you've got a Fnatic player, right? Let's say Fnatic do go all the way here and win this bracket, and they qualify straight away, and they only manage to play 3 games. Well, having a Fnatic player is fine, and they'll probably do okay because, they've won all these games. So your players will probably do okay. But if they only play 3 games, like, what if Kayak, just has a quiet game against Team Liquid? Well, you're going to get that quiet game against Team Liquid, no matter what. So, although you aren't going to get extra points for playing more games, obviously just the chances that you give your players to play more games is going to be beneficial, because if you've got players that will play, 5, 6 games, then they are more likely to, even if they have a bad game or two, they've still got a chance to have some very good games. Now, that is a tip that Sideshow gave out in his video. Go and check out his video on his Sideshow Valorant channel if you want to see him pick his team and some of the players that he thinks are good options. Probably want to avoid those players knowing Sideshow. But he did miss one crucial tip. And I think this is the most important thing to any of you who want to do well at VFL for Kickoff. This is the main tip I would give. And actually, someone in his comment section, so shout out to you if you're watching this video, someone in his comment section noticed this as well. And that is that not all of these games are the same. Okay? These games look the same right here, but they're not the same. Let me explain. Because you see, in Kickoff, when you take a look at the overview, the upper final is a best of 5. This middle final is a best of 5. This lower final is a best of 5. Okay, and for those of you who don't know how VFL works, if we come to the guide here and talk about scoring, best of 5s are mostly like best of 3s. There's only slight differences here, that if you win 3-0 in a best of 5, you get +4 rather than +2 for winning 2-0, and if you win 3-1, you get +1. Those are the only differences. Okay, so if you think about playing in a best of 5 in VFL, what you will get is, if you lose a best of 5 3-2, you've won 2 maps. That's the same amount of maps that you win in a best of 3, but you lost the game, right? But you also get to play 3 other maps. So even in like a close loss best of 5, your players will almost certainly score more points than they would in any best of 3, even if they dominated the game. Unless they win like 13-0, 13-0, you will probably get more points from that best of 5, even though they lost, rather than a best of 3. Now, obviously, if they lose 3-0 in a best of 5 and get absolutely stomped, then yeah, sure, you're better off winning the game. But as long as it's somewhat close, or obviously if they win, you're better off in that best of 5. And for Kickoff specifically, this is very important, because the way Kickoff works and how the brackets work means that you could potentially really, really maximize this. Because remember, you get your best 3 games. Well, the way that Kickoff works, if I just come to my Pacific Pick'em here, you'll see that I've got full sense losing in the upper final, right? So this would be one best of 5 that they've played. But if you lose the upper final, you go straight to the middle final. So if you lose this best of 5, you straight away play another best of 5. Okay? So there's 2 best of 5s guaranteed. And if you lose this one as well, you go to another straight away best of 5. Right now, I have Full Sense losing all of these best of fives, but let's just say in this scenario, Full Sense lost to Paper X, lost to T1, but then beat RRQ. If these were close losses in these games, they would absolutely farm points in VFL, because almost certainly their best 3 games would be these best of fives, right? So that is something to definitely consider, that I think the best teams to pick are the teams that you think will get to this first upper final. If you think you can properly predict who can get to this upper final, you will be in a good spot, because you will have a best of 5, and even if they lose, losing this game might actually be better for you, because they will get another best of 5, and losing this game might be better for you because they will get another best of 5. So I think if you can correctly predict who the second and third best teams are for Kickoff, and potentially teams that get to this upper final, those are the players that you should be trying to maximize, because they will play best of 5s, and that will just get you more points. So what that potentially means is, and generally I think that players that are kind of, low fraggers but play on good teams, I generally try to stay away from those players. I actually think those players a lot of the time are traps. I'm talking about players like Boaster, players like Boo, right? Your IGLs on teams that are good but don't really frag a lot. I actually think that this could be an inverse situation though, where actually those players who are perhaps the lower priced players on the better teams end up being very, very good picks, particularly if they are like the second best team or the third best team, because they're going to be lower priced, but they're also going to play in best of 5s. Okay, so that would be the way that I try and approach VFL. I think that is the #1 tip for Kickoff. I will be making my team tomorrow just before America starts, so that you can all have your input and tell me how much of an idiot I am. But that, I think, is my #1 tip for Kickoff, is try and pick the players that you think will play in those best of 5s.